Hello, friends. I am Chevee. Welcome to my shed. How are you today? How's life in your world? How's things where you are? Hope it's fantastic. Everything here is great. Yeah, I'm sore. It's raining. It's a good thing. I spent a lot of time outside this weekend, and it sucked. So I've lived here for 12 years. Almost exactly 12 years, actually. I think yeah. I lived in my previous house, my first house, for 8 years. Yeah, 8 years, moved out, moved here. Right. So 20 years, yeah. Of home ownership. I'm a dreamer. I've always been a dreamer. Not in the kind of, oh, the world is such a, not that kind of thing, but I've always been the kind of person that visualizes. I, I hate to, that's such a cliche, like I'm a visualizer, but I was that person that would process scenarios, let's say that. And so I used to often dream about divorce. Not from Malia, obviously, but from my ex. I used to dream a lot about divorce, and no surprise, we were in a loveless marriage. It was just it was more like a domestic partnership than anything else. And it wasn't necessarily the divorce that I dreamed about. That was part of it for sure. The freedom of being a single person was part of it, obviously. But the big part was divorce would, selling this house. The biggest part of my dream was moving into an apartment. And I know that's ridiculous sounding. And I know that there are millions and millions of people who would much rather live in a house than an apartment. And they are jealous that I get to live in a house so inexpensively. I get it. But let me tell you, 20 years of home ownership, I don't want it. I've never I used to drive past. So I was a mechanic, and I had this route that I would drive when I worked on a customer's car. We would always test drive them. That's just part of the deal. I test drive your car a couple miles, and this one area that I used to drive by a lot had like brownstone apartments that were not, there was like 12 apartments or maybe even 10. It was a small amount of apartments. They had their own parking lot. Right across the street was a stream for fishing. Like, I used to dream about living there. And the real fantasy of that dream is I'm not responsible for any of it. And that is the thing that I've always wanted, right? I like my house. I like having space, and I get to have my toys and all that sort of stuff. But the maintenance of the place and the maintenance of the grounds, and I don't want to do any of that crap. I hate it. I absolutely hate it. I hate fixing stuff because I have to. I love fixing stuff. When friends call me up and they need something fixed or whatever, I enjoy doing that. But I hate having to do it because it's my place of residence, or because if I don't, the house will fall into disrepair or whatever. I hate it. So, this weekend, I spent the entirety of Saturday and Sunday outside. And I'm not being crazy here. Saturday, I've been saying I wanted to do this for a while. Saturday, I spent the entire day, like 6 hours at least, broke for lunch, that sort of stuff, outside pressure washing the front of my house. It took me 6 hours, just the front. Not the whole house, just the front. I have dormers, I have a roof, I have a big front, I have a porch with nooks and crannies and, whatever. I also did the sidewalk and the landing, that sort of stuff. 6 hours of pressure washing. Cleaning out the gutters. I sprayed on a house cleaner and let it sit and, whatever. Did everything did it all the right way, except for part of the reason. So here's the thing. I've lived here for 12 years and my house has never been washed. Like, I've never even thought about it. I've cleaned gutters and that's it. And where the front dormer on the front of the house is, the side of that dormer never sees sunlight. The sun rises over here and sets back there, and so the picture that I showed, there's never sunlight there, and so I had some moss growing there. It was not a pretty sight, so it needed cleaned badly, and that took a lot of time because the pitch of my roof is super steep, so it's not like I can climb up there and scrub it with a brush. I just had to get it with a pressure washer. I probably sprayed that whole area 3 times with the solution and then pressure washed it. That took a while. That took a long while. And the porch took a long while. All the spindles on the rail, everything was moldy. Like yeah, I guess it was moldy. It was green, mildewy, mold, whatever, growing on everything. It desperately needed done. And I did it. I just did it. That about wiped me out. But Saturday evening, I asked Malia if we could go to Lowe's and we'll go out to eat. So we did that because I didn't want to cook. And I picked up some solid stain. And then yesterday, I stained the porch. And that took, I mean, in reality, it took maybe 4 hours. I spent probably an hour and a half to 2 hours sanding. I sanded the whole porch, even after it was pressure washed, just to get any fuzzies off, to even out any, like if I, my pressure washer is low pressure. It's like 1700 PSI, so it's, it can damage wood if you get it close enough, but it's not one of those ones that's going to like blow the boards apart. So there was some unevenness just from where the wand stopped and whatever. And I knew I was okay with it because I knew I was going to put a solid stain on it. And a solid stain is basically a paint. It's an oil-based stain that has a ton of pigment in it. So it's almost a paint. It just bonds better. Paint doesn't stick to it, especially on a deck. I don't think paint's a great choice. But the solid stain is a good choice. So I spent probably 2 hours, 2 total hours sanding. I used my orbital sander with some 80 grit and then hand sanded all the areas I couldn't get with that. I hand sanded between the boards to get all that cleaned out. And then probably 2 to 3 hours of painting. I did 2 coats. I did I bought Valspar as the brand, and it says it's a 1 coat, which it is, if you know what you're doing. But I didn't, and I was like, it said something like it could do 150 square feet on old wood, and so I figured my deck was about 70 square feet. And so I wasn't really sure how far it was going to stretch. So at the beginning, I wasn't putting it on super thick. By the time I got to the steps and the landing, I was lathering it on there. And that worked great. And I was like, oh, I should have been doing this the whole time. So I went and did a second coat a couple hours later. And that really evened out the color and everything. It looks beautiful. It's really nice. I didn't take any finished pictures of the front of the house, but you can see the color of the porch. It looks nice. And I picked a color that was kind of close to the color of treated wood. That way, if I missed like down in the cracks and stuff, you would never notice. Nobody would notice. And so it's done. I feel happy about it. I feel glad that it's done. But ultimately, I would have much rather spent my weekend doing anything else. I just hate it. I hate everything about it. I would much rather live someplace where somebody else does all that crap and I don't have to worry about it. That's just me complaining, right? That's just first world issues. Woe is me. I have to maintain my investment. But it's nice and it looks pretty and I'm glad it's done. So next is landscaping. We're going to tear out all of the landscaping that I showed in that picture and replace it all. And redo, I'm probably going to do landscaping blocks and mulch and all that sort of stuff. So I think that'll be a pretty decent project to knock out. And then after that, I need to really work on the rest of the house, cleaning the rest of the house. I have a piece of siding that got lost, but I don't have a ladder to reach that. I have the garage door here is trimmed in painted wood, and it's all, like it's gone. I want to tear all that off and use just PVC brick molding. And then I have a back deck that's not covered, so it's really badly damaged that needs to be repaired. So there's lots of work to do. and I have no energy to do it, but I'm just going to do it because I think that's what it takes, is just get it done. That was my weekend. How was your weekend? Was it better than mine? I'd love to know. Let me know in the comments. Thank you for being here as always. Thank you for liking it, commenting, subscribing, being amazing friends and wonderful people. I really appreciate you. And I'll see you again tomorrow. Today's word you should know to sound smart is Xanadu. It's a noun meaning a place of perfect, idyllic beauty. In Xanadu did Kubla Khan a stately pleasure dome decree, where Alf the sacred river ran through caverns measureless to man, down to a sunless sea. Samuel Taylor Coleridge, an English poet. Xanadu, Xanadu. This person who wrote this book has something like just absolutely loves Samuel Taylor Coleridge. Like it seems like every moment they can to interject a Coleridge poem, it's there.